said it was for safety. They said it was for fairness. But if you look at the telemetry, NASCAR's latest rulebook update looks less like a safety fix and more like a targeted strike on one man from New Zealand. Now, I want you to sit with a number for a second. 3. 3 consecutive road course wins. A Sonoma weekend sweep. A Mexico City demolition job where our boy crossed the line more than 16 seconds ahead of the field, the biggest margin of victory in a cup race in over 15 years. That's not, he's decent. That's a Kiwi walking into the biggest stock car championship on earth and making 3-time champions look like they're driving in the wet with slicks. And here's the thing that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Every single time, Shane van Gisbergen turns a road course into his personal driveway, somewhere in a Concord, North Carolina R&D center, someone reaches for a pen and starts clarifying the rulebook. So, today, we're running the investigation nobody in the American press wants to touch. Banned or better. Is NASCAR genuinely evolving its rules for the good of the sport, or is the good old boy network quietly building a fence to keep the Kiwi invasion out of their backyard? We're going deep on the restart tweaks, the 750 horsepower shift, the ECR engine question, and the Hendrick shadow hanging over all of it. Grab a coldie, let's get into it. Right, let's establish something up front because I'm not here to sell you fairy floss. SVG's advantage isn't magic, it's pedigree. This is a 3-time Supercars champion who spent a decade wrestling 5-liter V8 beasts around Bathurst, Adelaide, the streets of the Gold Coast. The man's braking and corner entry footwork, the heel and toe throttle blip business, the American oval crowd basically never had to master, is on another planet. On a road course, that's not a small edge, that's the whole ball game. So how do you neutralize a bloke like that without saying his name? You don't ban the driver, you change the arena. Rule change number 1, the restart game. Road course restarts are where SVG's craft turns into daylight. He nails the launch, he brakes later than anyone into turn 1, and he's gone. But watch what NASCAR's been doing, the restart zones. The tightening the leader can and can't go, the clarifications after every jump start dust up. Each tweak chips away at the exact window where a road course specialist makes his money. Coincidence, maybe, but it's a funny sort of coincidence when it keeps happening. But, wait. It gets more suspicious when you look at the Chicago data. Chicago and Mexico weren't just wins, they were statements. And right on cue, NASCAR's been fiddling with road course qualifying and practice formats, expanding and reshuffling sessions season to season. Now, on paper, that's housekeeping, but every format change resets the deck. And a resettable deck is exactly what you design if you wanted to stop one guy from banking pole after pole after pole. Here's the big one, though. For 2026, NASCAR pushed the short track and road course package up to a target 750 horsepower. More grunt, sounds great, right? More power, more fun, but think about who that actually helps. Raw horsepower rewards the throttle mashers, the oval-bred lads who've been feeding on big power their whole careers. SVG's genius was never about who had the most ponies. It was finesse, brake modulation, tire management, being smooth where everyone else is scrappy. Crank the power and you quietly hand a little of that advantage back to the home team. Better for the sport or a nudge on the scales? Keep that question in your back pocket because it matters later. Be honest, you're here because you want the truth about SVG that the US media won't tell you, but 80% of our Aussie and Kiwi viewers haven't hit subscribe. If we want to keep the NASCAR Nation decoded voice loud enough to matter, I need you to join the crew. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and let's show them how big the Anzac presence really is, because right now, the algorithm thinks nobody south of the equator cares about this sport. You and I both know that's rubbish. One click, let's make them notice us. Now, back to the conspiracy, because this is where it gets messy. All right, to understand the why, you've got to understand the plumbing of NASCAR, who's got the good gear and who's getting the scraps. SVG drives for Trackhouse Racing, good outfit, ambitious, well-funded. But here's the bit most fans don't clock. Trackhouse doesn't build its own engines, they run ECR power. That's the engine program out of the Richard Childress Racing Campus, solid engines, championship-capable engines. But let me ask you a straight question. Are they the same engines rolling out of the Hendrick Motorsports engine shop? Because in Chevrolet's world, there's a pecking order. Hendrick is the crown jewel. Hendrick is the factory darling. And whispers around the paddock have long put a performance gap between the top-tier Chevy power and everyone else's. If there's even a 2 or 3% gap between what SVG's got in the back of the 88 and what the Hendrick cars are packing, then think about what that means on a super speedway in the pack. That gap is life or death. It means our boy is doing what he's doing on the road courses while starting from behind on the straights. Now, this is where the story takes a massive turn. For 2026, Chevrolet is consolidating. Haas is joining Chevy with a technical alliance leaning on Hendrick. Rick Ware switched to Chevy tied to RCR. The whole manufacturer is closing ranks, reorganizing who's connected to who. And in a system like that, alliances aren't just friendships. They decide who gets the latest development parts first, who gets the wind tunnel time, whose feedback shapes next year's car. So, here's the uncomfortable question for every SVG fan watching. Is Trackhouse's setup, the ECR engine deal, the position in the Chevy family tree actually helping our man reach the top step? Or is he a genuinely generational talent being quietly held back by the fact he's not sitting at the head table? Think about it from the other side of the fence for a second. If you're a rival team boss, SVG on equal machinery is a nightmare. He'd be a title threat every single road course and dangerous everywhere else. So, the smartest way to manage that threat isn't sabotage with a spanner, it's structural. Make sure the rules reward the strengths he doesn't have, and make sure the best equipment flows to the drivers who aren't him. You don't need a smoking gun when the whole system's built to nudge things a certain way. And look, I'll be fair, because that's how we do it on this channel. A lot of these rule changes have legit reasons. The A-post flaps, genuine safety kit to stop cars going airborne, no argument there. The 750 horsepower bump. Fans have been begging for more power for years. Not everything is a plot, but not everything isn't nothing. When the pattern keeps landing on the exact skills and setups that give one foreign driver his edge, you're allowed to raise an eyebrow. Tough break for the conspiracy deniers. The timeline just keeps lining up. So, banned or better? Here's my honest verdict, and you can tear it apart in the comments. It's both, and that's what makes it clever. NASCAR isn't stupid enough to write the SVG rule into the book. What they've done is evolve the sport in a direction that happens again and again to sand down the exact advantages a Supercars bred road course assassin brings to the table. More power, tighter restarts, reshuffled qualifying, and an engine and alliance hierarchy where our man is not at the front of the queue. Individually defensible. Stacked together, that's a wall being built one brick at a time. But here's why I'm not worried, because the real deal doesn't need a level playing field. He tilts it himself. They've thrown every clarification they've got at him, and he's still